Ever wish you had someone to tell you the truth about what it takes to run a successful business and live a fulfilling life? Well, amiguita, you've come to the right place. So grab your favorite cafecito or cocktail, your courage, and let's get to work. I'm Eugenia Woo, a therapist, business strategist, mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and a feisty Latina from Miami. And I'm determined to teach you the exact tools you need to stop settling and start kicking some serious derriere. What do you say? Are you in? Then let's get started. Welcome to Latinas Empowering Latinas podcast. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to have a special guest for us today. Her name is Eugenia Woo. I met her online and she is a fabulous Latina entrepreneur. And I wanted to bring her on so she can share with you her specialty, which is podcast production. This is not my area of expertise, although I have a podcast. I literally taught myself. I wanted to bring on an expert that can support you fully, especially when you're just considering starting a podcast for the purpose of your business and growth and extension. Eugenia, thank you so much for being here with us. I am so grateful for you to join us today.
Thank you for having me, Janessa, and having you pronounce my name correctly brings me a little joy. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind people mispronouncing it because it's hard, but when I hear it correctly, I just glow. I'm so thankful.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm the same way, and I try to teach my kids the same way. Enunciation in Spanish is everything. So Eugenia, tell me a little bit about you, where you're from, and then just kind of like dive right into why podcasting and why you chose this area.
Sure. So I'm Venezuelan born. I'm an immigrant. I've been in the US for 7 years. I have a background in theater, entertainment. And then when I moved to the US, I had to make it work. And I started doing my MBA because something funny happens when you move here is that all your credentials are virtually worthless. It is really interesting. I graduated from a top school in Latin America, but here in the US, they even told me if you can change the name of your school from Spanish to English, that would make you more acceptable to employers. And it happened. When I changed it, I started getting more calls. I was very into the business world and just trying to make it in the corporate life, but I still had this creative side. And that's when I found podcasting and decided to do my podcast. I was listening to podcasts about female empowerment. At the time, it was in Spanish, 2017. Me Too movement was just a baby. And it was not political at all. But it was not a cool thing to have a podcast about female empowerment. But just doing it gave me my voice back and it gave me so much, gave me my power, just being able to speak up because I had to be quiet. I had to change myself. Even my pronunciation of my name was different. And after that, I became a VA, virtual assistant. After I finished my MBA, I became a marketing expert. And I realized there was such an amazing opportunity to bring podcast production, which I had 5 years of experience at that point in 2020 to mix it with my marketing background because I noticed that there were two camps of people, either super passionate about podcasting and production and high quality, and they were having great entertainment podcasts, but business owners were struggling to find how to make it strategic because the business owner usually is more into the business side, not so much into the production side. So I decided to start this business as a marketing-focused podcast producer. So how can we use your podcast to market your business in a way that's authentic to you, that you can use your voice to be your own advocate, but it also connects you with the people that you want to work with. So it's been a wonderful journey.
I love it so much. And I just have to jump in and kind of share a little bit too, where I can completely empathize and on some level relate, but not fully because I'm a first-gen Latina and my family's from Cuba. We literally had no voice, and it's something that my island still struggles with. And I created this platform to give voice and to reach other people. But I also wanted to give a huge part of my podcast journey was to give a platform to other Latinas. I am so honored that you're here and to tell your story because it's the same thing. In Cuba, you come here and it means nothing. So you had to start from scratch. So the story of resilience is such an important piece in the mindset world where there are so many people that I work with. They're like, but I can't, but I don't have. And we're just like, you figure it out. We're going to get this done. We're going to sit on the floor. We're going to park ourselves in a closet. We're going to just get it done and make it, do it scrappy, but just get it done. Love 100%. That you shared your story of resilience as well. And even like in your name, you started off saying like, I'm so happy you can pronounce my name. Like that's something else I think that people struggle with, whether it's communication or your accent. You know, people just hide, whether it's visually hide, right? Like I don't want to show up or I don't want to take pictures because I don't feel confident. But even sometimes with your diction or your language or your content or your creation that you don't feel confident enough. And one of the things that I've learned is you just have to show up. You have to do it and then you get comfortable. You don't just wake up comfortable. The more you do, the more you learn, the more you get there. You decide, okay, I'm going to help business owners market through podcasts. Tell me, like, really basic. So I'm going to assume that a lot of people that are listening to this either just started a podcast or are thinking about it. So I just want to keep it like really basic. The first time I heard about podcasting, I was told it's too much work, it's exhausting, and it's not worth it. And I'm so happy, which is very common of me, that I ignore everybody when they tell me something and I just figure it out on my own. And it is a lot of work, but it is possible. And I believe it's definitely beneficial. For those thinking about it, what words of wisdom do you have for them?
I think first you need to get very honest with yourself. Do you want to use your podcast to grow your business, or do you want to use your podcast to share a message you're passionate about? You can use it for activism or for ministry, whatever you want, but it is very important that you are clear from the get-go, because if you want to use it for a business, you need to be very clear about the problem that you're solving. And I work also with a lot of creatives who don't want to niche down or put themselves in a box. While I completely understand, if you want to use it for business, you want to serve people. You want to serve them by offering a solution to something they're struggling with. If you want to use it for business, you're going to have to solve a problem. If you want to use it for either it's a personal goal you have, some business owners really just want to share something, their voice. A lot of them have been so shy their whole lives. And this is a personal milestone, and it is amazing. Talk about everything. That is great, and I'll support it. But that measure of success needs to be clear. And more important than your quality, than your audio editing skills, than your marketing skills, is having a clear message. First, what problem are you going to solve? What is the problem that this person has? And it is a problem so specific that you can answer in a sentence without you having to give a 30-minute answer to what is your podcast about.
So this is the thing that I find that all the people that I work struggle with. They don't have an ICA and they're not clear on their niche. Here's the response that I know everybody's thinking as they're listening to this. Well, I help people. I help people in business. That's it. So what do you tell somebody when they come to you and you're like, well, Eugenia, I just want to help women. I just want to help women. That's what I want to do. I want to help everybody. What do you tell them?
When you speak to everybody, you end up speaking to nobody. And the average person listens to 5 to 7 podcasts a week. So It is amazing, but it is not a lot. Put yourself in those shoes. Are you going to make room in your rotation to a podcast that talks about everything and anything? Or are you going to listen to someone that's going to make your life better in something you're facing?
So what you're saying is, unless you're really clear on who you're serving and how you're helping them, you're going to get lost in the sea of podcasts. There's not going to be room for you because you are trying to help everybody.
Unless you are a huge Amy Porterfield, and she just helps business owners with marketing because she's huge. She has a huge platform. But I guess that the average business owner doesn't have that huge platform and wants to use their podcast to grow their platform. You can help, and this is very important, you can niche down by type of person or by problem they're going through. So you can help someone who is, a 30-year-old who is struggling with their hormones, because at 30, your hormones change. So it's a very specific, or you can help someone who's starting a new career. It's a specific life moment. Maybe that person can be 28, can be 38, but the career transition is the common factor. But what do they have in common? If you talk about I'm going to talk about my journey as an entrepreneur. Well, you are great and your value is infinite in the eyes of God. But to this person, what do they need to care about your vision about the world, as in your philosophy about everything? But when you tell them, I'm going to help you with your mindset as an entrepreneur, then I know that with you, that's what I'm going to find. And then maybe you tell me about your favorite green juice and how that helps you with your mindset. Maybe that's one episode, but it's all in the context of mindset.
Being clear, being super clear is the ticket to doing well with your podcast.
Yes, being clear with other people and with yourself. Because then this happened to me in my first podcast. It was about empowering women, and I was doing it by interviewing women with different jobs. So I was, a tattoo artist, someone with not a traditional job. And I interviewed a lady she's a dog trainer. And I did not think this through. What do I want my audience to get from it? And we did not talk enough about the role of being a dog trainer as a woman and how she deals with that. And we ended up talking about how to train your dog. So as I was editing, it was so painful because I know that my audience is not trying to learn how to train your dog. It's about the journey of this woman. So when you create content, yes, you need to know, what am I interviewing this person for? You can interview someone from any industry for anything, but how does it relate to your audience?
I love this so much because, so again, you're not saying not just the message you want to get across, but what do your followers and your listeners, what do they need? Right? So if, like you said perfectly, like I know so many people, I can have like anybody on this show, but my purpose is always, what is the connection that I feel that this person can make with my audience, and how can I help serve my audience and support this entrepreneur, this guest, by reaching my audience in an area that they need. So perfect example, like I know you're an entrepreneur and you're Latina, but my fan base, my listeners are in this point of they want to grow their reach and they're considering a podcast. In turn, how can I have you on to say, hey, this is what you need to start. Here's the clarity that you need. It needs to flow. There needs to be a flow. You just can't randomly have people on to have people on. You can't just randomly talk to talk. And that's something that's so important because people don't realize that when they're starting, especially when they're teaching themselves. Let's get into the messiness. Like if somebody has nothing and they have no idea where to start, like how can they get scrappy and just start a podcast? Like what are the basic things that they need?
First, I want them to spend the most time with the concept than with the technical, because there are wonderful tutorials out there, free, that can take you step by step. But if you have a strong foundation, the technical side is going to take care of yourself. First, I want you to think, what problem am I solving? This is a podcast about helping entrepreneurs with their mindset. Very clear. You don't have to be a copywriter. Then I want you to create 3 buckets of content that you're going to create content around. Let's say in your case, and I don't know if these are your pillars, so let's talk about someone else who wants to create a podcast for entrepreneur mindset.
Go ahead.
So this could be, okay, what are 3 things that this person needs help with for their mindset? So maybe they need help with boundaries, number 1, because you see that, there's a lot of episodes related to boundaries. Maybe there's another one about confidence. You want to talk a lot about confidence, and you are going to talk about lifestyle hacks. Okay. Yeah, that could be strategy. But what about strategy? Because strategy is too big. So if you're going to talk mindset, strategy to hack your mindset. So it's so specific. And then once you have your 3 buckets, every piece of content you create has to come back to one of these buckets. Or, which is the best thing about having your buckets, is that you can have an idea and have 1 episode per bucket. So if you want to talk about someone, let's say you have a lot of questions about people struggling to start their own practice. Let's say you talk to therapists that are really, they just feel so fearful of failing. So you say, okay, boundaries you need to have in place when you are starting your own practice. And then boundary is telling your friends not to come with negative comments, all your boundaries. Then you have another one on confidence, and you explore what confidence means when you are starting your own practice. And then hack for strategies, you can talk about having a schedule or finding a place. So you talked about the same thing from your buckets. And even though for you it might be repetitive because some points might be shared, for the listener, they can't get enough. Me personally, when I need help with something, I listen to a podcast, I'll watch a YouTube video, I'll read a book. I just need so much content. If someone has a problem, they never listen to an episode and the problem is gone. They want to come back for more. So you have your idea, you have your 3 buckets. Then this is more technical as you start creating your assets. You have your name. I like it to be clear. For business purposes, I don't like a podcast called Blue and Yellow. And it's a podcast about how to overcome sadness. Like I want the name to be more descriptive because we need to play with SEO. So have your name to be very descriptive. Have your show.
Don't be cute with it. Have it help you.
Yeah. Unless you're Jenna Kutcher, she has her podcast is Gold Digger Podcast. To me, the best name in the history because it's cute, but it's very specific. And sometimes people come to me and they say, "Oh, but I love Serial," and they love a podcast that's entertainment. Thing is that you are not providing entertainment; you are providing solutions. So you are not, you don't need to have a cute name. Call her daddy. That podcast is entertainment. You cannot set your benchmark from her. You might like elements of how she does her interviews and you incorporate those elements, but that cannot be your foundation. So be specific, no more than 4 to 5 words. 5 is a lot. Short, sweet, to the point. And then your show description, make it very, very long. That's where I want you to expand, because that's going to populate to everything SEO. So here you can start with what your message is, what the problem is. So have you ever experienced you talk about the problems in a way that's SEO searchable? Then you say relatable. In this podcast, yes, relatable, but also with the words. So if you instead of saying, are you struggling with the blues? You need to say struggling with sadness, because sadness, it's going to populate into SEO.
It's going to break down what you're saying. So the first thing is you're saying, don't worry about the technical stuff like the fancy products that you need. Just worry about spending time on what you're going to talk about, who you're serving, your IC and your niche. So your ideal client avatar, the specific pain point that you're helping to solve, how you can solve. Focus on your name. So make it short, sweet, clear, not cute, no more than 4 to 5 words, and then really go into your description in your podcast, wherever it's going to be hosted, and make that more thorough. So then the search engine optimization will help a little bit with your reach, because you're going to put in target words of pain point or the points that you're solving to help reach the people you're trying to reach, right?
Correct. And add your links. Add your links to your description as well, because that's going to be easier for people to find you if they just want to connect with you. From there, you can create your list of episodes using the buckets we just talked about. And I love, if you need help with the technical, go to buzzsprout.com. They are a host platform. When I'm trying to not make it super technical. When you host a podcast, it's not like YouTube where you upload it to the platform and then your videos are available on YouTube. Or when you upload it to Instagram, it is only Instagram. You need to host
like a vehicle to get there.
Yes. You need a place where your audio lives. Imagine if you had a place where you uploaded your images and it's available on Facebook and Instagram and everything automatically. This is what podcast does. So you need to host it somewhere, and they are going to fire to Apple and Spotify and all your players. So Buzzsprout, that's my favorite. But if you are just starting out, you might not have the budget, because I believe it's about $15 to $17 a month. Anchor is a free option. I'm not a fan of free options, because I once heard, if you're not paying for the service, then the service is you. My personal philosophy, but I know people that have it there and they love it. There's Podbean. That's another option, a little less expensive. I love Buzzsprout. They have a blog post, how to start a podcast. Literally go to them, follow step by step, even if you don't do it with them. For the technical stuff, it is perfect. They're going to tell you how to record. They're going to tell you which microphone to buy. For every budget level, they're going to tell you how to upload your podcast, how to connect it to everything. So just follow that guide. I think it's the best.
I'm going to go back to content, right? Because I heard you mention 3 pillars and buckets, right? And I love that concept. And again, because I taught myself, this is not something I was even aware of. I just kind of wing it. My question is, that I know everybody struggles with, is but Eugenia, what if I run out of things to talk about? So can you address that big concern that everybody has? What do I do if I run out of things to talk about?
I just want to lower the stress, and you are not going to discuss anything new. Everything that you are going to talk about has been said before. And I think it's liberating, because you don't need to create anything new. Then there's a difference between the concept and the application. So we can talk about boundaries, but boundaries it's not a podcast. A boundary, there are so many things. Boundaries in your family, in your job, with your friends, with yourself. Then there are questions some questions you can brainstorm. What are some things your ICA wants? What do they want related to what you do? If you're a nutrition coach, what do they want? Oh, this is very important. What do they want is not necessarily what you're going to sell them. Sometimes I have clients that are working nutrition, and they say, I don't want to sell weight loss because my program does more than the weight. But the thing is that they don't know. You need to take them to where they are and show them you want to lose the weight, but it's really about this. But if your podcast is not titled weight loss, they're never going to know about the solution.
So I have a perfect example, and I'll use myself, right? So I work a lot with couples. I love empowering women. But a lot of the women that come to me in a relationship are not happy and don't feel fulfilled and don't feel seen. But they're not going to come in as an individual saying, I don't feel like I'm getting what I need. They're going to come in and they're saying, I'm really not happy in my relationship. My partner is not treating me well. I know what they need is empowerment, but I know what they're looking for is help in their relationship. So you have to draw people in with their pain point and what they're looking for and what they need. And then as a bonus, what they want, I should say. And then as a bonus, you give them, when you're serving them, what you need. It's about stopping, like kind of putting your ego aside and saying like, well, I know this is what this person needs. Well, no. If you want to reach the person, right, through your podcast in this example, and you want to really serve them, forget about what it is that your program provides. Like it can provide self-esteem and confidence and all these great things. But what your person is looking for is they're in desperate need to feel better about themselves by the method of losing weight. So once they start listening to you, then you can empower them, right? About your mindset and your boundaries. But unless you're talking about the weight that they're losing to lose so they feel more confident, you're not going to get them to listen. And I think this is a huge message, Eugenia, because so many times we get in our own way and we're so worried about what we want to give instead of what people need and are looking for.
Yes. I love that exact the example with the couples. You need to sell them on a problem they would admit to. A mentor I had, she said, no one has an ugly child. So if you're a web designer, for example,
and you clap, that's excellent. Nobody has an ugly child. Go ahead.
If you're selling web design, you don't sell and tell them that their website is ugly. You tell them your website doesn't sell. Maybe it doesn't sell because it's ugly. No one's going to say my website is ugly. Maybe they spend a lot of time there. They're just frustrated because it doesn't sell.
So nobody has an ugly child. It's okay, people, listen. But this is the importance of really knowing, and I go back to, and I swear to God, I have to dedicate an entire season on this, your IC and your niche. Because if you're not clear on who that one person is that you're trying to serve, that will then allow you to speak to them and so you can reach extra people. You're not going to be able to target in the language and the pain points and what they need. You're going to be completely lost. So whenever you feel lost, I go back to, are you super clear on your ICA? To the point of like, what's her name? What city does she live? Is she married? How old is she? Not an age range. How old is she? Does she have children? Not a range of children. How old are they? What stage of life is she? What is she doing now? Until people are that clear, and I cannot say this enough in this podcast, you will get lost in the sea of everybody and you are not going to reach the people you're meant to reach because you are too scared to be clear. Do not be scared because you will get lost.
And to add to your point, which I think is fantastic, many people will say, oh, but I don't talk about marriage, right? I'm a health coach. I don't talk about marriage. The thing is that a married woman or a mom of three doesn't have the same problems than a single lady that's trying to climb the corporate ladder. So if you're a nutrition coach, maybe you make an episode on how to meal prep for a big family. That could be an episode versus how to meal prep when you don't have time because of your job during the week. You are talking about meal prep, but the reason they need it is different. And the problems they have, if you're a time management coach, maybe if someone's in their 40s, almost 50s, maybe they have little kids in their lives. Maybe they're at the time where they want to spend more time doing the things they're passionate about. And that's time management for them. Maybe they have a lot of work, but they want to make time for their families. And maybe for someone who's just starting their business, maybe they have the opposite. They have a lot of building they have social activities and they have a lot going on, but maybe they want to make time for their business so it grows. So you can explore time management, but it is very different for someone who has a lot of busy work and needs more time for family than someone who has a lot of time already with family and needs to make time for work. So that's why it's important to know it. And if you want to, you can open a spreadsheet and in column A, you're going to write your pillars. So A1, you're going to write pillar 1, pillar 2 and A2, pillar 3 and A3. Column B, you can start writing problems related to the pillars. Problems can be, what do they struggle with? What is an excuse they have? I love the excuse to start thinking about excuses because those are your best episodes. If someone is saying, I can't lose weight because I don't know how to meal prep, it is expensive, I don't like working out, all your examples, you can make those excuses into your pillars.
You're building the bridge between what they want and how they can get there. So you're taking all of their excuses and actually answering them in your podcast episodes. So good.
Yes.
I just want to jump in 2 more things, and then I want to hear exactly about how you can help everybody who's listening right now.
Yeah.
So 2 things that come to mind is, even as we're speaking, and I'm thinking like running out of content, which is what I hear the most people complain about or being fearful of. And I would say that I can have an episode or listen to my episodes from a year ago, and I would put a completely different twist on it this year because I have a different experience. A year has passed by. I've learned so much. I've done so much. I've made mistakes. I've grown. I've learned. Never be fearful of running out of content, because you can literally have the same conversation about the same topic, the same pillar, and the same life stage, and be in a different place in what you're giving back, because now you're in a different place than you were before because you've been through another part of the journey.
To that, I want to add quickly, have you ever talked to a friend about the same thing 10 times? Like, you're always talking to your and you always go back to your friend. You call them with the same things, and you still want to hear her advice. And you've talked to her, and she's given you 10 times advice, and you keep going back. You're never like, oh, I talked to her last week about this. Let me try a new thing to say. No, you have your things you talk to with your friend.
I love that. You're so right. Okay, one thing I want to hit before we kind of start wrapping up is, I want people to push aside the fact that they don't have the right tools, that they don't have the right mic. You need to start somewhere. I remember one of the stories I first heard was somebody like sitting in their car because it had good audio, because it kind of like bumps you in, or people that are in their closet because it's full of clothes and it helps with sound, using your AirPods. And I will admit, I'm gonna share that, yes, I have my fancy laptop and I have a microphone, but usually when I get inspired to have like I call them monologues, like when I feel inspired to share from my heart and not have a guest on, I'm usually walking around. So I usually do those with my AirPods on my voice recording on my iPhone, which is far from fancy. But that's where I feel like I am most inspired, and I'd rather record then than wait until I'm back in my perfect office with all the soundproofing and I've missed my messaging and my energy. Start with whatever you have, and then you grow from there. Then you can get your Yeti mic, and then you can grow to your heel mic or whatever it is that you need. Start where you're comfortable, and just, like you said, the content is so much more important than the fancy tools to use it. I've talked enough. Eugenia, tell me exactly about how you can serve everybody who's listening to us. So they finally get their plans together and they want to do this. How can you help them?
We can take you from, I don't know if this is for me, to launch, to management, and then really growing it and making sure it matches all your marketing efforts.
So worst case scenario, no matter what stage of the process they are, Eugenia is an amazing resource. So please take advantage of her. And then Eugenia, please tell people, how can they find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. That's the quickest one, at Eugenia Woo. That's EUGENIA.Woo, WOO.
Thank you so much again, Eugenia. It has been an honor. It has been a pleasure. And I'm so excited to hear what everybody gathered from this podcast. So please go ahead and let us know how you feel, what your thoughts are. And if you're thinking about launching, give us a launch date so we can celebrate with you. And thank you, everybody, for listening and trusting us on this journey. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always such an honor to speak to you. If you loved today's episode, I would love and be so grateful if you left a review. So let me know, what was your greatest takeaway, any aha moments, and how you were inspired. I'd love to give you a shout out in a future episode. Until next time, amiguita.